So I'm glad I kept these photos because if you guys saw this and you were my father, you would probably want to murder me.
Oh shit!
And
my god! Welcome back to Just Kidding News. Out of the closet. Today we're talking about Joe and his life of crime.
Or 4 elements of hip hop.
Nice.
And my love.
You're calling hip hop people criminals?
Yes, that's what the police call
Hip hop people?
Shoot, dude. Back in the day, though, like that was literally the like anti-drug.
Yeah.
But it got me into drugs. But like that's a different story. But like the theme, okay, like listen to everyone's story, right? The theme of today, or just in general, it just keeps going back to I was saved by having a purpose. Like you guys had dance that like pulled you out, and then you had like theater, as geeky as that is, it's still
Thank you. Loser.
yeah, and you had fighting and
Dance?
you know,
Getting beat up.
yeah, and then Bart had like military and just everything. Like you need a thing, right? And I was happy like that early on. I felt like I found art. I was like drawing. I got into like, dude, I had a lot of stuff that I drew all the time, and I think that was my escape. Like when like people were fighting or whatever, like I would just like listen to Kiss FM and like, you know, Mariah Carey's on and I'm having a good time and I'm drawing, and in the background like my brother and dad's like screaming at each other or whatever, like I don't know, you know, like it's kind of like you're drowning it out, and that's kind of the sacred space. And also it was the thing that I was always being praised for. Like everyone's like, that's great, you know, and then my mom wanted to show it off to her friends, and then like I never got my ass kicked for it. So like they were like, what is that? That's wrong. Like piano music, dude, even my violin teacher was kicking my ass, and he's not even my relative, right? Like everybody, I was a kickball, dude. Like,
He was fucking you up.
and so
I hate to laugh at it. You just sold it really well.
but like I think it was a natural kind of place where that was the one thing in my life that I was like, this is my shit.
Getting
And
my
I
ass
can
kicked.
compete.
Kickball.
I'm good at getting my ass kicked.
This is my shit.
My ass beat.
Throw me into a punching bag. Just close the top.
But like I discovered hip hop. Like my, you know, at the time, man, like everybody was listening to like rap, and you were either you were trying to participate in one of the elements. Like you're trying to be a DJ, but you need money to have DJ equipment.
That's the expensive one
Right.
for sure.
Oh yeah.
And if you're rapping, like, okay, you could freestyle, you had a good command of words, but I was like kind of too young. I was like 6th grade, you know?
Didn't have enough vocabulary.
I didn't know words very well. And there was dancing, and then, you know, I had friends that were getting into break dancing and all that, and I tried it, and I'm like, man, I'm like 100 pounds. I'm not strong enough for the power moves, you know? But like graffiti really spoke to me because of how dangerous it was. It made me feel alive doing something bad, right? Like you're going out there, you're drawing on something, and there's a risk of like, if you get caught, you go to jail. But also there was an element of battling through art. Of like, you cross each other out, you can fucking put something on the wall, and then someone else can like compete with you. And it's like, who has the most tags in the city, or bombs, or whatever you call it, right? And then also there was the aspect of like brotherhood, where like you form a crew, you get together, you're hanging out all the time, you have a bunch of other fucking loser ass kids that like probably get the shit kicked out of them too. And so it became this thing where it's like, well, I'm not trying to be a part of a gang, because like that shit's scary. But graffiti, all day, every day. Like we could go out there, and that became my thing of like, I'm pretty sure, man, there was always issues happening at the house, but when you're young, you don't remember. You just know you don't want to be in the house anymore. Yeah. And so at the time, I found every excuse to say, oh, I'm just going to ride bikes with my friends. And it sounds innocent, right? So you're going out there, and then you're just like hopping on buses, riding here, riding there, going into the freeway, doing this, doing that. And this is when I discovered weed. Because, you know, you go to like people's garages and you're drawing and shit, and then they throw you some weed. And I was like 13 at the time. And then I'm like, this is one of the best things in the world. what the fuck is this? Why is drugs bad, you know?
Dude, I feel the same.
I remember taking my first hit, and we went to McDonald's, and I didn't have any money. But, like, also, when you're with a bunch of lost boys, like, people take care of you. And I think that's the dangerous part, right? Like, people make you feel loved, but it's false. It's this weird, like, feeling of, like, oh, my God, you bought me a fucking burger? It's just a fucking burger. It's like a 35-cent burger, but you just feel like, oh, no one's ever done that for me.
What's the false part?
I mean, I don't know, man. Maybe it is real, but it's like they're gonna cash in on their check eventually, right? Remember when I fucking did that shit?
It costs more than a burger.
There's manipulation. There's like, I mean, you're around a bunch of fucked up people.
Yeah.
And some people, maybe they will just take care of you, but I don't know. But it's just, I remember just thinking, maybe it was the weed, but I was like, oh my God, they bought me this burger. It's the best burger I've ever had. And then I'm like eating this, and I'm like, this fucking brotherhood's so cool, you know? And then, like, I think that was literally my gateway to liking people outside more than my real family. Mm-hmm. And that was like, okay, I get to be with these guys, and we're doing exciting shit. You know, in the middle of the night, we would just, like, hop fences, paint up schools, whatever. And you're doing bad stuff, so you feel like you're doing a heist, but you're also a little kid, so you're afraid to actually, like, do an armed robbery or something, but it's, like, kind of there. And then you're also doing something that's, like, artistic, that's everyone sees, oh, did you see that? Oh, who did that? And then you get a fame out of it, right? And I think, like, that was the first time in my life where I felt like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And it's the most destructive, fucked up thing. Like, it's not good at all. But then you start thinking about how, like, well, we're the good guys. Because the institutions and the teachers and then these guys, they're the bad guys. And then you start to make this weird kind of thought in your mind. And I really do think, like, all these things are gateways to organized crime and gangs and everything bad in this world. Because when the system literally fails these kids who are incapable of reasoning and logic, like, their way into anything, when you grab them at these early ages, they're kind of, like, already distrusting of, like, everybody.
So they're clay for your cause.
Yeah, like, you can easily bring them in and being like, I'll give you a little attention if you, and then you can get them to sell drugs for you, right?
That makes sense.
So it didn't get that bad for me yet at 13, 14, you know, but this, I can see looking back how it was kind of priming me into this world. And so I was having hell of a good time, and I think my parents were also dealing with so much of their own that they weren't really paying attention much. Like, I'd still get in trouble for being caught going out late. I would still get my asses beat because my dad was still there. I wasn't really, like, doing everything completely on my own yet. It was that gray area period, but when my dad left, that's when I full force went, because my mom was so depressed in her room, she never left her room. She would go straight to work. She just stopped being a mother. She went to work, came back home, she stopped cooking, she would just go into her room, and that was it. And I remember thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, there's no dinner. What am I gonna do? Or, like...
That's why that fucking cheeseburger was so important.
Maybe.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I know, like, I talked to my mom about this too, and I've forgiven her like crazy, but her life was so shook. I think she went into, like, this weird depression shock, where, imagine her, good, conservative Christian girl, living in this bubble. She did everything right. She followed all the rules. And then her husband has an affair. Her sons are fucking maniacs that don't follow any of the rules. I'm getting arrested, you know, like, and then so she had this mental breakdown of, like, why, God, you know, and then I think it just put her into this depressive state where she couldn't even get out of bed.
Damn.
So, like, I took full advantage of that because I was like, woo, freedom, right?
Yeah.
So here I am, and it got really bad to where, okay, now I'm graffitiing all over my bedroom because no one's there to stop me.
Wow.
My garage, I have photos, I'll show you guys. It's pretty fucked up. I don't know if I should show it to you right now, but in pause. But what do you think?
Yes.
Talking out of camera.
Yeah,
Okay, hold on, real quick.
Because then they'll see it, and then it'll cut to our reaction of the same thing. Yeah.
So I'm glad I kept these photos because if you guys saw this and you were my father, you would probably want to fucking murder me.
Oh shit.
And
Oh my god.
What? Really?
Dude, this looks like. Remember in Ninja Turtles 2?
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles were like the Foot Clan. They followed.
Yeah, the Foot Clan's hideout.
And at this time, I was just getting into graffiti, so I wanted to practice as much as. It's horrible. The art sucks. It's so bad.
This is inside the house.
That is
Dude.
my bedroom.
Damn, bro.
Fuck, bro.
That is my bedroom.
Oh, I would fuck you up.
Right?
Damn,
This is your prison cell.
That is my bedroom.
This looks fucking nuts.
There's some stuff in my garage. There's some stuff like I fucked the fuck out of my house. And so like
Who bought you spray
It
paint?
makes it look like a crack den.
I have a question. This one says Nationwide Kings Vapor. Is that
that was one of our crews. So we had a couple of crews, Nationwide King.
You know for sure you will not get your security deposit back.
I have a second question. This one says Jennifer. Who's that?
I have no idea. So here's the
Is
thing:
Nationwide the most
Jennifer
square
K?
thing you've ever written? Because that just sounds like insurance now.
I invited random people.
This is
over.
fucking intense, dude.
I invited people I didn't know over the house. We would just smoke
Fucking
weed.
floor of the garage?
Like
This is
yeah,
insane.
And your mom is just door closed.
my mom's not home. Like it was Lord of the Flies, literally. Like my garage was open season.
I understood. I didn't understand before when you're like, everybody beat your ass. And I look at these photos and I'm like, that's why everybody's beating
Was
your
this
ass.
is this a house your family owns?
No, they rent. So
They're renting this house?
So that's the house that the last time I had me, my grandma, my father, my mother. It was like a nice, like warm environment with a lot of people. And then it ended up by that time it was just me and my mom.
How the fuck did you go from this to the Joe that we know?
You're about to find out.
Holy shit, dude.
But I literally at this point, yeah, I brought like my mom was like thinking, you know, I'd rather have you here than out there. So like I was getting fucking drunk off my ass, inviting everybody. It became that house that everyone just came and
Right.
like did whatever they want.
It was really the crack house.
It was literally, yeah, we did all kinds of drugs there. And I was like 14 years old. So the adults would be coming in, high school people would come in. Like there would just be all kinds of different ages of people coming in.
This was all Gardena.
This was in Gardena, yeah. And at the time, you know, like I was a part of a crew and we would go paint and all this stuff. And there was another group out there that I became friends with. And I would invite them over and we became close. And they were like in high school. And at this time I was like in 6th or 7th grade. So I really looked up to them. And I thought they were like some of the coolest guys. Like their art was on a different level. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to draw and then they taught me a lot and it was really cool. But I think, you know, when you're so little, right? And I was a fucking mouthy kid. So naturally you're gonna bully a little asshole. And I think also this is a very like hazing and I think like I see this in Korean culture too. But like it could get really fucking bad. And what I mean by that is like I think a lot of cultures have bullying, but I think I've been around Chinese, I've been around other groups, and I think Japanese and Koreans take it a little too far. And especially if you're dealing with delinquents, right? Because they're gonna go a little bit further. And so a lot of the times, like I think when you're in these situations and people are giving you attention, you don't think you have other friends and you think they actually like you. But eventually, I started to realize I was their entertainment. Because it got to the point where they asked me to come sleep over one time. And we always used to do that. We always used to go, hey, let's pretend like we're going to sleep over and then we're just going to go paint all night together, which we did, right? And we got high as fuck. And then he goes, hey, I got a surprise for you. And I was like, what is it? And then so my dad he bought me a buck knife, a hunting knife. And it was special to me because he taught me how to like cut fish and stuff. And when we go fishing, I would cut with that. And they pulled out my buck knife. And then they go like, you want it back? And I was like, oh, that's fucked up, dude. Oh, funny, you took it from my house. And I was like, yeah, I want it back. And he goes, well, all right, we'll put on the gloves. And so he's like, you're not from our crew. And at this time, I'm like 13 or something, 14, right? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So he throws gloves at me, and he goes, you'll get it back if you fight every single one of us. And I'm like, fuck, you guys are all high school kids.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I'm like, also, what hurt the most was the betrayal. I
You thought you were in the crew.
I was like, oh, okay, I'm just a little fucking boxing dummy to you guys. So I said, fuck it, let's do it. Put on my gloves.
Oh, fuck.
And I just went as hard as I could. I didn't know what I was doing, And obviously, one after the other, they're laughing, they're fucking me up, right? And at this moment, their dad comes, and he opens the back. He sees us in the backyard, and he goes, what the fuck you guys doing? Some Japanese American cat. And they're like, oh, nothing, we're just training. And then he comes up to me, he goes, are you okay? Because he could probably tell, right? And then for some reason, dude, like, I had to be like, nah, we're cool. Like, I didn't want to get them in trouble. Yeah. And in my heart, I was saying, like, fuck, save me, man. Like, I'm scared. Like, I don't want to do this no more.
Yeah.
So, I just kept going on with it, right? And then I finished it. They said, all right, cool. And then I heard one of the guys say, after all of it, I overheard him saying, like, I'm gonna fucking make this guy into a killer. Like, it was his intention to build me up to being like a rabid animal that they can probably fuck around with and use.
He wanted you to be a child soldier.
Basically, yeah. Like, I mean, back then when people would get into like dog fighting, right? Like, I remember like people would do shit like, I'm gonna give this dog chili peppers to get it pissed off. And then it's like, I think they were not only having fun, but they wanted someone in the future that they can rely on to do the dirty work or whatever it was. And they were having a good time. So at the same time, I was like, okay, well, now I'm paranoid. And I don't know what the fuck they're going to do next. And I remember they're like, oh, let's go paint now, right? And there's this abandoned house. Let's go check it out. And while I was going out there, I said, nah, I'm not going. And he goes, why? And he goes, because you guys are going to hide in different parts of the house and try to scare me. And then they're looking at each other like, how did he know? And I'm like, I'm high out of my fucking mind, but I'm not dumb, I'm not going to play this shit no more. And I remember, like, after that, I was like, fuck these guys. And I went home. And after that, it got worse and worse to where they wanted to, like, call me out and, like, fight me. And every time they saw my tag, they would cross it out. And I remember I had a really close neighbor friend, and his brother were close to these guys. And one time they were like, hey, come hang out. Not the guys, right? My friend. And I was like, sure, I'll come hang out. And then I got to where they were at, and we're going to go walk to my elementary school. And he goes, oh, we got to hop that fence. And I'm like, sure. So I hopped the fence, and then they basically sabotaged me. And then the two guys were there. So I was like, you motherfuckers. And then I knew what was going to happen. So I said, fuck this shit. And I just threw the first punch. And I just said, fuck you motherfuckers. And I just, like, fought for my life, right? And, I mean, like, what am I, like, barely, like 100 pounds. These guys are high school kids. They're just wailing on me. Eventually, I'm overpowered. I'm on the ground. And I said, all right, I had enough. And they just keep kicking me. And I'm in my elementary school. It's like late at night. There's no one there. So all I'm thinking about is like, oh, fuck, am I going to die? Obviously, they weren't going to kill me. But in my head,
It feels like you are.
yeah, I'm like, I'm alone. Like, I'm going to die, right? So after that, all I could think about is like revenge. Is like, I'm going to fucking kill these guys. Because, like, it's not fair. Like, your bodies are bigger. You did a 2-on-1. And, like, obviously, like, you're going to win. And I was like, how can I kill him? And that's all I can obsess about. So at that point, I think, like, my kind of head went to a space of, like, I got to get the fuck out of here. So I told my mom, I was like, yeah, like, I don't know. And then I told my uncle this, too. And then my uncle was like, you're coming to San Francisco with me. So, kind of like overnight, when I told my uncle, like, I guess this has been going on for like a month, and sometimes they would come to in front of my house, they would park their truck, and I can just see them out of my window.
Oh, they've just been antagonizing you.
They've been fucking with me. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
shit, I see.
And
You were a target for them.
Yeah, and I think like it started with bullying, but it ended up like getting worse and worse to the point where it was like, okay, now they're really just beating my ass.
Yeah.
Like if they caught me in the streets, they're beating my ass, right? And I remember one of them, like, I was biking down, getting to my friend's house, and then he basically got off his bike. He found me. He tried to grab my bike, and we were just fighting over my bike. And then I got away, and I was like, "Fuck, dude! I almost had my bike jacked." Like, and what sucked is like I was such a smaller kid that I was like, "Fuck! I want to feel strong. I want a team behind me." And these fucking graffiti guys, like, they're like too weak, you know. And then so like fast forward to, I found another group of guys that were really fucking cool in Orange County, and we started painting, and I started hanging out there. And then I reconnected with my old buddy Eddie when I went to SGA because I kept getting kicked out of schools, and he introduced me to raving. And through raving, I met a lot of Asians because back then, like, I was in a Mexican black neighborhood, and the only Asian guys that I knew were the guys that I looked up to that were bullying me. And at that point, I felt like, well, a lot of my friends that I went to elementary school who were like black and Mexican at this point, they're joining gangs in junior high. And this was like the next stage of like, oh fuck, now this is serious. And I kept thinking, if only these guys were my friends, I wouldn't be in this position because these guys are afraid of those guys. Like, when you see those scrawny Japanese taggers, like, they're not gonna fuck with the rolling 60s Crips, you know? Like, they're afraid of all that. But they'll fuck with a guy like me who's a 100-pound sixth grader. And then so eventually, like, I went to kind of escape all that. I went to San Francisco. I came back. I had all my friends from Orange County. We developed a new crew out there. It was a bunch of like Asians, Southeast Asians and Samoans, some Polynesians. We had a lot of fun. And then one day I got caught and I went through the whole system. I was terrified I was going to go to juvie. And so I was kind of like on probation. So all I was allowed to do was go to school, come right back home. And I told my mom, I was like, I don't think there's a future for me in Gardena. We got to get the fuck out of here. And so she was like, you know what? Like, I'm tired of living in this house too. And rent is so expensive because it was a 3-4 bedroom home and it was just me and her. And she goes, I'm ready for a change.
Did you guys have a conversation in the room with full of graffiti? Is it like in one of those?
That's a great question.
He's like, I don't have anywhere else to bomb. I need a new house.
We need some white paint.
I forgot where we had this conversation, but I begged her. I was like, I tried living in San Francisco. It just didn't work out for me. I hated my uncle. Well, hate is a strong word. He took care of me even though he beat my ass. And I think he really cared about me. But it was tough living with him.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, I need to get the fuck out of here. And this is when I met so many of the Asian folks through raving. And also there was an opportunity because I always sold drugs with them. So I thought as a great career path, why don't I make my way into the San Gabriel Valley? So I told my mom, I said, hey, like, I want to move to San Gabriel. She goes, oh yeah, like, we have so many family friends there. That's a great city to move to. Not knowing it's a breeding ground for Asian gangs, right? And,
Wow.
But at this point, I was still not into gangs. I still didn't care about that stuff. I just said, you know, I just need a change. I don't think there's anything going for me. The school system in Gardena was horrible. Like, my mom told me that the day she signed me up, she went into the parking lot and like 10 kids just came out of nowhere and all these cop cars just came arresting them. And she's like, holy crap, this is the school I'm putting my kid in?
She's like, this is a good police force. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Joe's entrance into gang lifestyle. More to come here on Just Kidding News, out of the closet.